Kia ora, good morning. Happy Mumma's Day to all the mamas out there. Today's our day. I'm I can't even, I've got to tell you this dream before I forget, because the names of the two main characters in it are really important. So, the dream started off, I was in the back seat of a car, while I don't know who the driver was, but there was a guy in the front seat, in the passenger side front seat, and Chris was on the out. My ex-husband was on the outside of the car, and the guy in the passenger seat was very clearly, obviously gay, and he was upset because he was wanting to go with Chris, but Chris was making excuses as to why this guy couldn't go with him, and it was obvious that Chris was trying to ditch this guy, and it was hurting this poor guy's heart. And when the guy was asking where Chris was going, he was saying, "I'm just going for drinks with friends over there," and pointing sort of in the general direction. And the guy was saying, "Well, what's over there? What bar's over there? What pub's over that way?" Asking him, and Chris was just like, "Oh, it's just a bar." And I said to him, "I know what the bar is." I said, "It's called the Bear, Bear." And I said, "That's where he's going to drink." And the look on the guy's face was just like hurt, utter betrayal. And he goes, "Oh, well, I've got to go because I've got work to do anyway." So I said to him, "Look," I said, "Girl, why don't you come back to my place?" I said, we'll get something to drink." I said, "I've got some weed." And he was like, "Well, no, I've got work to do, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Come on." I said, "Look, you can do your work from my place." And I said, "It'll make you feel better." I said, you don't need him." And he was like, "Well, yeah, come on then, girl." So then we drove off in the car. And then next thing I know, I'm laying on a bed in my old house, Kippenberger Drive, at the Linton military camp where I grew up in Linton, just outside Palmerston North. It was Kippenberger Drive where we lived. I can't even believe I remember that now. That's how I know that the mushrooms and my cortisol is healing, because I wouldn't have remembered any of this stuff before. I think it was 14 Kippenberger Drive. And I'd done all this. I had like a book, and I'd done like drawings and a map, a big map. And I had called Chris home, and I'd said, "The boys have got something for you." And I was laying on the bed waiting for him to come home, because I knew that he didn't know what was coming. So he comes in and peeks around the door, and he's like, "Hey boys, I'm home." And obviously the boys weren't there, and I said, "The boys aren't here." And he goes, "Why, where are they?" And I said, "Read what's on the bed. Look what's on the bed." And he opened it up, and he was like, "I'm confused. What are these drawings? What's this map?" And I said, "The boys are at school." I said, "And they're not letting them come home until you go down and answer to the school." And he goes, why do I have to answer to the school? Bearing in mind this is a military school, my primary school was at a military base. This is important. And hang on, want a kiss? Oh, I'm going to get a kiss from someone. And I said, "They're not letting the boys come home until you go down to the school." And he was really nervous. He did not want to go down to the school, but I wanted to go. I wanted to hurry up and go down to the school, because I wanted to hurry up and get my boys home. But he was dragging his feet. "Oh, well, just let me get changed first. I need to have a shower. someone, he was complaining about how someone keeps breaking into his shed and stealing stuff from his shed. And he goes, I put that weed in the shed and someone stole the weed. And I said, I know who it is. I said, it's Snake. I said, Snake's the one that's been stealing all the stuff. And he did not want to, he did not want to deal with it. He did not want to deal with it. He did not want to have to go there and deal with Snake. And even the mere suggestion of me mentioning this Snake just made him completely shut down, just shut down. And then I was in the toilet. I had gotten myself dressed. I was getting ready to go down to the school to go and get my babies. Sorry, I'm having a sip of my coffee. And I started bleeding, lady bleeding. And it was on my hands. I couldn't contain it. Like what I was trying to use to contain it that a lady would usually use wasn't containing it. So it was going all over my hands and that, and I'm washing my hands with, and I know a lot of ladies will identify with this, the other alternative, the one you wear on the outside for, sanitary purposes, were in the bedroom. So I had to put toilet paper in between my legs to go to the bedroom to get the pads. And I put my foot inside a Kleenex box because I was so kerfuffled by that point. I put my foot inside a Kleenex box thinking it was my shoes because I was trying to hurry up and get ready. But I was just making silly mistakes and having to say, just calm down, Debbie. Just think, just saying to myself, get yourself together, woman. And so then I got my sanitary pads, put it in, and then slipped my shoes on. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror thinking, how do I say this without sounding arrogant? You look real, what I actually said in the dream was, you don't look half bad. But, I personally myself don't like to look in the mirror because I used to have body dysmorphia, which I cured myself from. But I'm trying to hold off until I'm able to dress the way I want to look, once I have the money to dress the way I want to look, so that I can reveal myself to myself. If that makes sense. I'm leaving my final reveal as a surprise to myself. So I don't fully know what I look like from head to toe because I'm keeping it a secret from me. I live in clothes and, well, I've got to be honest and say mostly pyjamas, because I was donated mostly pyjamas more than clothes. So when I do wear clothes, I have to keep them for when I have to go outside and that, because I can't afford to keep buying clothes, So I wear mostly pyjamas because when I came here, obviously I had nothing but a kettle, a toaster and a small bag of clothing that I was able to rescue from the house, and everything else was donated. So I have to keep my clothes for when I go out and when people come round and that sort of thing. I've bought a couple of jumpers for the winter and all of that, but I've got so many pyjamas that I just wear them because nobody comes here. So I remember I was wearing these really cool kind of sexy pink shorts and this kind of like what I'm wearing now, like this black shirt that's off the shoulder. I love it off the shoulder top. I like my shoulders. I've got sort of muscular, well, not muscular because I'm not like Miss Olympiad or anything, but my body as it's developing has started getting very toned, and I like my shoulders and my arms, which used to be like my worst parts of my body that I hated other than my tummy and my butt. But it was this lovely black off the shoulder thing, and I looked very feminine, and I looked really, I liked the way I looked, and I was proud of myself. And then I was saying to him, well, come on, we've got to go down to the school. And he was saying, how do you know that they've just not been kept back from school for school reasons? And it was, I remember looking at the clock and it said 3:20, but I could hear kids in the neighbourhood at the back of me playing, and I said, the other kids are out. I said, you can hear them. I said, but the boys should have been back by now. Where I lived at the military camp, I literally only had to cross a very small park, and my school was right there. So 2 minutes. I was 2 minutes away from school. And it was 3:20, and they still weren't back, and the school wanted to talk to Chris. Excuse me. Want a kiss? I'm getting a kiss from someone. That's twice now. So, but he wouldn't go, and then I was standing at the front door of my house looking at the school, because from my front door you could see the school. You could see the end of the school. And I was just desperately longing to get to the school to get my babies. And he was putting it off. And then in the end, because he was concerned about who was stealing stuff from his garage, and in the end I grabbed his arm and I said, you're coming with me, and dragged him, and the look of fear on his face was palpable. As soon as I touched him, I felt that fear in his body. And then I pulled him out, and the door slammed behind him, and then I woke up. Now this is important, and why I'm documenting it is I'm going to tell you why. Okay, so you know how I've been saying Chris is closeted. All the gay and bi male friends in his life all look exactly the same. They have beards, they have dark hair, they're either short, they either look Arab, Turkish, that kind of thing. In gay terms, they're called bears. They're hairy, they have, body hair, they have beards. I think they might be called beards now, but in my day we called them bears. They were very masculine, manly men, covered in body hair, and they had beards and dark hair, either dark brown or black hair. And all his gay friends, like Lawrence and Tardy and that, they all look exactly the same. I was saying to his friend, come and have a drink with me, I've got some weed. When you drink of alcohol, it's when you dream of drinking alcohol or buying alcohol, it means having control over your reactions, having control over what you see and think and feel. You're in control of what you take in and how you react to it. But if you take in too much, if you take in too much, then you become out of control. But when it comes to alcohol, obviously how much you drink and how much you take in is all down to you. You're in complete control of it. And obviously, as I keep saying, weed in dreams, marijuana in dreams, is to do with your spiritual connection. And in this dream, his kept getting stolen. His got stolen. So I'm in the car in the back seat, which means I'm sitting back watching things unfold and trying to help the friend that Chris was hurting, because I knew that he wasn't respecting his friend and I felt sorry for his friend. So I was trying to help his friend and making him feel better by saying I'm going to help you take all of this in. I'm going to help you sit and think about what it is he's putting you through so that you know how to deal with it and handle it better. So he's obviously got someone out there who's watching me who is being disrespected and disregarded because of Chris's image, and he's heartbroken. He like Chris is hurting this person. So this person, whoever he is then like taking lessons from me, taking a leaf out of my book on how to deal with Chris because he's the master manipulator. In private, he makes you feel like he needs you, but in public, he doesn't necessarily like to be seen with you. If you don't fit his image and what he's trying to portray, which is successful, intelligent, artistic, highly respected professional man person, he keeps you to the side, which is why this man and I were in the car and Chris wasn't. And the only women that he will be seen in an actual relationship with are the women that he thinks he can gain something from. But there was no women in this dream. Tadi, Dan, Lawrence, they all look exactly the same except Lawrence has got long hair. The one that he did the sexual toys for, for the toy, the sex club, the sex fetish club. So then, of course, we were back in the military camp, my childhood school. And when you dream of being in a school, when you dream of if you dream of a school, dream of being in a school, anything like that, anything to do with a school, it's a warning that you're needing to cut ties with the people around you. But this was a military school, which means needing to cut ties from the people around you because the government, the law, are getting involved. And they were holding the kids back for their own protection from their father. Someone kept breaking in and stealing his weed, stealing his conscience. His conscience had been stolen from him, meaning the snake, the one who was breaking in, the snake, somebody played mind games with him to remove his conscience because they were promising him, because in the dream all the things that he was holding precious were in that shed, but he wasn't locking it up. And that's what I keep thinking in the dream. Well, you're not putting a lock on it. You could put security on it. I've got security on it because I know who it is, because I can see on the cameras who the snake, that it's Snake. But he wasn't doing anything about it. He wasn't putting any protection on it. So, in the shed, it means like in the back of your mind, like your conscience, basically. If buildings and dreams are how you see yourself at the time of the dream, it was my childhood military army base house, which means I feel safe. I feel protected. I know I'm safe. I know I'm protected. So I had nothing to worry about. But he was the one that was panicking. And he was worried about his shed and the stuff that had been stolen from his shed. Specifically as well, I know there was electronic equipment in there that got stolen the night before, and this one was the weed. So, and then I had drawn the map and I tricked him into coming into the house using the boys to do it, right? So, basically, I'm trying to break it down bit by bit. So basically, the person or the people, the snake that lured him into putting all his valuables in his shed, where he didn't put any protection on, I think is to do with the, and the weed being stolen, is to do with the people that lied to him to get him to betray me, which caused me to lose the boys. But I think somebody has been gathering information. Maybe one of his male lovers, I don't know. Possibly. But I think somebody's been gathering information on him because he wasn't careful with what he was saying, with what he was texting, with what he was messaging. I know that I've got people who are willing to testify against him about things that he was saying, like when I was telling them about, telling the doctors and cops and that about how he's been hiding money, and he said it was bullshit. But I've got people in his circle that said no, he was talking about how he's got 12 grand in this and 20 grand in this and blah blah blah, and he was even showing me the app that he uses that tells him how his stocks and shares and that are doing. And I can show you if you want. This is what people were saying to me, and I was saying to them, like, would you testify against them in court? And they were like, yeah, absolutely. And then because I told the doctors and cops he wanted to move to Whitby, but I didn't want to move to Whitby. But he was insisting that we move to Whitby because that's kind of where Dan lives, Jess and Dan, who he got help from, and the part of his sex cult. And he was saying she's lying, she's making it all up. But then his friends were saying, no, he told us that he wants to move to Whitby. He wants to buy a house there and move the boys to Whitby. And I was like, see, so I've got all this information, which is, you know, how on the bed in the room, I'd drawn the map and I had a book and I had the map, which means I've gathered all the information. And it's a treasure trove of information that's leading him down to the school to have to answer to the school in regards to my children, what he did to my children, which was he lied. And because remember they laced that weed and put the cocaine in the pizza. And that's, you know, that night, that's what caused all that trouble. You know, when I called the police and said he's poisoned me. Well, he was too scared to go down to the school to answer to them because he knew if he did, he was in trouble. And then the boys would come home to me. Now, the fact that I started bleeding, and it was lady bleeding, is to do with fertility. I'm becoming exceptionally fertile, and I'm about to become exceptionally fertile, which means lawsuit. I'm about to grow everything in abundance, be Mother Earth, Mother Creator, and grow everything in abundance due to an excessive bleeding, due to an overflow of money, an overflow of love and fertility, and how do I put it? Motherly love and support, an overflow of it. And it allowing me to grow in abundance everything that I want to hold and create as part of my legacy as a woman, as a mother, which is, you know, fire and the Dragonarium, because Dragonarium basically means surrogate mother. And it was in regards to my boys, and it's Mother's Day. So, and then because I kept messing up and putting my foot in the tissue box and all of that, so it's like when this comes in, when the news comes in, when this overflow comes in, I'm being asked to compose myself keep myself together because it might all come at once. It might all like get thrown like love bombed or something. It might be all like thrown on me all at once, and because of energy. Because remember when I touched his arm, I immediately felt what he felt because I'm a receptor, an energy receptor. I pick it up and transmit it really easy, which is another thing with period blood. Exceptionally receptive, and my hair is full of static at the moment because of the electrons in the atmosphere. So I'm picking it up like a Tesla coil, and it's showing in my hair. So I'm exceptionally electromagnetic at the moment and highly receptive. So when I looked in the mirror and I liked what I saw because of how I was dressed in that, I was dressed exactly how I would dress in real life if I had money, if I didn't have to worry about money. At the moment, I'm trying to save up to buy a Hoover. I might actually be able to do that next month, fingers crossed. But it means that when this is over, I'll be able to look at myself with pride and say, you did this, this is all you. Be proud of yourself. You're going to be proud of yourself with how this ends. Looking in the mirror, right? And then, of course, me standing at the back door, front door, looking over at the school, knowing that the boys were coming with me, meaning I knew I'm about to get justice. And when I grabbed his arm and said, you're coming with me, I think was the police. You're coming with me. That's what the cops say. They grabbed his arm, and I grabbed his arm, and the second I touched his arm, I could feel like the cortisol spike. Ironically, when you get a cortisol spike, it feels like pins and needles all over your body, like from your guts up to the top of your head. I felt the cortisol spike, and it gave me pleasure. Not pleasure, but I was like, now you know how it feels. And I dragged him, yoink, out the front door. So I wonder whether he's going to get a knock on the door. I'm wondering whether someone had that weed tested, whether someone went into the files and got that weed tested and it's come back positive for the opioids. Because they already know from my blood test that I had cocaine in my system. And I'm wondering whether one of his lovers has maybe handed some information to the police, or because he realised that he was fast becoming the same kind of victim as me. Somebody out there has done something. And I think there's been a quiet investigation going on behind the scenes. And now he's about to get caught. And it involves the military and the government. The military being, because remember, they went to like the FBI, and they went to, remember it was the army, the phone number, Rosio's number, from the army base next to her Air Force base that hacked my phone, and I've got the number. I'm wondering whether maybe it could be the American Army that pressed charges against him or something like that, because it was specifically Army. And my childhood Army base, Linton Army Base, which means involvement to do with the Army from the past, from when I was still naive and innocent and unaware of what was going on behind closed doors. But when I grabbed his arm and I felt that spike of fear, it brought me pleasure. like, gotcha, now you know how it feels. Except I knew when he went down to that school to answer questions, meaning he's probably going to get some sort of phone call or the cops are going to turn up and take him to the station. You're coming with me. You're coming down to answer questions. We need you to answer some questions. He knows when he gets down there, he's not coming back. And the boys are going to be brought to me. Because I think somebody is going to sit down and say to the boys, look, it turns out your mum was right about everything. Because they were not letting them come home to me until he went down to the school. But it was for the boys' protection, for their own protection. So I think I'm being told that Chris is about to get nabbed and I'm finally about to get justice, and then I'll be able to leave. Take my boys and leave and turn that blood, that fertile blood, the blood of fertility, into an overflow of motherly love, turning it into my foundation to finally look after the children. And because the thing is, that military base that I grew up in, the army base I grew up in, Linton, that's where 99.9% of the paranormal stuff happened that made me want to understand what it is I am today. I've told stories before about when my sister and I used to come home from school and those war masks that my dad brought back. He was gifted them from the Solomon Islands. The chieftains gifted my dad these war masks that had turtle shell teeth and all that on it, to thank him for what he'd done for them during their civil war. And he kept them on the wall in the hallway, but they kept flying off the wall and scaring the crap out of me and my sister. There was all sorts of stuff that went on at that place. And it fascinated me. I needed to know why. We were just told it was poltergeists, but it's like, but what were poltergeists? But see, now I know, because I'm a biorhythmic engineer. Because I understand how energy works within the ion particles of the atmosphere, which is why when I touched him, I felt his cortisol spike. Because I'm like a walking, talking electromagnetic transmitter. That's kind of like a direct energy weapon. Oh, the birds are yelling at me because I haven't put food out yet. So, so I'm going to go. So I think Chris is about to get nabbed. I think maybe there's been an investigation going on behind closed doors, or there's about to be, because somebody's maybe possibly going to take information to the police. Or if it's not that, it's because they've gathered the information, because remember my treasure map. They've been gathering, someone has gathered all my information and evidence, and they've maybe pulled the weed out that Gabriel and I had sent in, and Gabriel and BJ and I. And it's actually funny because BJ, how I was dressed in the mirror is very similar to how BJ would dress as well. And even in the dream, I remember thinking that I'm dressed a bit like BJ. And BJ's the one who fed me and saved my life when I was locked up. She's the one who went and bought the boys clothes. Took them for breakfast and went and bought them clothes because they had none. I found a message the other day that I did when I was washing the carpet of my Instagram, of Gabriel saying, when are the pyjamas getting here, asking for pyjamas because he was saying that his pyjamas were all ripped and tattered and torn, and saying, I get paid on the 9th, I'll get some to you directly. I think I got some sent, because I was always sending them pyjamas and hoodies and that because they had no clothes, which is how I started this conversation. And so I think somebody behind the scenes has been gathering information, and they've pulled that weed out that BJ and BJ went and picked it up from Gabriel. Because Gabriel hid it because he said, something tells me we're going to need this for later. And I was like, oh my God, clever boy. What a clever boy. Because then, of course, when BJ came to pick it up, she mailed it off to the police. The police said they received it and then nothing was done. And that weed holds the key. Because it's going to prove it's got the opioids in it. But Chris had told the boys that the cocaine was in the weed, but I knew the cocaine was in the pizza. Because it tasted funny. It took 7 days for that horrible chemical taste to get out of my mouth. And I even mentioned that. It's all documented at where I got locked up. And I'm pretty sure that Jess and Dan may have had something to do with getting the access to the cocaine and the... I know the weed is all Mikey and Sarah because I have the text message from Sarah saying he's got some special stuff that no one in the world has ever tried. You have to try it, blah, blah, blah. You're going to be the first in the world to try it. So I know that they were responsible for getting the weed laced. But I know that he had help from Jess and Dan because she's a psychologist professor or something. So she would have told him, do this and get her done for this. This will guarantee she doesn't get the kids. This will guarantee blah, blah, blah. And then after, when they took Gabriel away for his birthday after I got locked up, Gabriel said to me on the phone that when they were at the camping grounds or wherever it was, she was asking him some really weird questions. And that's when I knew that they had been helping him. Well, somebody out there has gathered all my information and I think they're getting this weed out. I think this weed's about to be examined and they're going to see I was telling the truth. And then I think the cops are going to turn up and say, we need you to come with us. And he's like, oh, well, I've got work and I've got this. No, you're coming with me. Taking him down to the station. And I think it's because the military is because it turns out it's going to come out that, because they would have spent probably millions. The American military would have spent millions between the FBI, the Air Force, and the Secret Service and Army would have spent millions investigating me, believing I was a threat to America's national security. But now, see, it's come out that I can put links in the description box. I'm sort of it's not my problem anymore. But it's turned out that there's a mutiny within the military in America and they're refusing their orders to go to war. The American military are refusing to listen to Trump's orders and there's a mutiny within the American military now. And I believe it's because they're all starting to realise I was telling the truth. And it was me trying to protect the military and me trying to protect America. And it was Rocio and Chris and that were lying. So somebody's looking at that information and somebody's realised, holy crap, she wasn't the enemy. She wasn't the threat to America's national security. They were. Do you see what I mean? So the snake is probably Rocio or Elon Musk. Because they're the ones who were, but look, because like the snake charmer, the snake is like, in dreams, snakes are everything. A snake in the reverse is to do with surveillance and everything undercover. CCTV, because I was watching, because I knew who the snake was, you see, I was watching from the CCTV cameras. So I've known all the time who the snake was. But he trusted the snake because he was friends with the snake in the dream, and he was choosing the snake over the man in the car. So whatever they promised him, whatever Elon or whoever, because remember he's the one with all the, he's Art Morder with, you know, the glass Ardenberg garden, the glass eye that feeds him all the information. In a dream, that would be a snake. A spider would also be another one, or an alligator. Anything that observes in the shadows, anything that watches and documents from the shadows, from behind the scenes, covert, secret service, that sort of thing, that would be snake, spider, and alligator in a dream. And he didn't do anything to protect himself. He left himself open to the attack, to have his conscience taken from him, because he had no conscience about what he did to me and my boys. That's a psychopath. When a psychopath has no feelings towards the suffering that they're causing other people, that's a psychopath. So I'm telling you now, I'm just documenting it now, somebody has dug up all that information from my treasure map. Someone's dug up and gathered all that information, and I think that he's going to get a knock on the door. We need you to come down and answer some questions for us, please. Because remember, my investigation is still active and ongoing. The case hasn't been shut for my sexual assault and all that. It hasn't been shut. We need you to come down and answer some questions for us, because I think possibly the American military have realised that they've spent millions and millions and millions of dollars investigating the wrong person. And he knows that when that call comes, because it was the front door, so they might come to his door and say, hey, can you come down to the station and answer some questions for us, knowing that they're going to arrest him, and he knows they're going to arrest him, but they can't make a scene about it because of the boys. For whatever reason, it was all about keeping the boys safe while they got Chris away before they brought the kids to me, making sure that, like, realising Chris is a danger to the population, and luring him away and keeping the boys out of it and safe before they would let them come to me, making sure that me and the boys were safe, and he was moved out of the way. He has to be moved out of the way before the boys and I are allowed to reunite and go off and, you know, plant my fertile seed. Which, interestingly enough, is actually in Night of the Black Sun, my zombie apocalypse musical, when the kids escape the camp, which when we turn it into a movie will be filmed at fire at their actual, the summer camp, like at the dorms where they are, like it's all going to be in the real movie. When they had to escape to go to the Dragonarium, when the mum and the man in the helicopter gave them orders to get to the Dragonarium, in the movie, if you can keep them away for 3 days, they die after 3 days if you can starve them. So the mother says, get to high ground, get to where they can't reach you. So when they leave the summer camp to go to the Dragonarium, which, because when we originally wrote it, it was based in, we hadn't decided whether it was going to be Montana or South Dakota, but they had to go to Canada, because I was originally going to build the Dragonarium at Thunder Bay in Canada, in Ontario, because it has a high Indigenous population there. So the kids have to go from Montana to Ontario to get their friend and then go to Thunder Bay. But they go into this high-rise apartment building and block it all off, throw chairs and furniture and that down the stairs to keep the zombies at bay. And there's a scene in the movie where the kids are all like hauled up in the highest apartment in this high-rise building, and they can, see the zombies and hear the smashing and crashing and blah, blah, blah. And then the door gets kicked in and they're thinking, oh my God, this is it, we're done for. And when the door gets kicked in, it's Ruby Corazon from The Soul Collector. And she's like, don't be afraid, kids. Your mum sent me to come and get you. Follow me, I'm going to take you to the Dragonarium. And then when they come down the stairs and, see everything, they see all the bodies, and she takes the kids the rest of the way to the Dragonarium at Thunder Bay. And then that's when Thomas's character finally gets to use his sword. While she's, when the helicopter comes down and all the kids get on the helicopter, it's like a military-style helicopter. When the helicopter comes down and the surviving kids get on the helicopter, Ruby is getting the kids onto the helicopter safely, while Thomas's character is fighting the antagonist who's trying to get hold of the kids. And that's when he finally gets to use his sword. And then he, slices them up. We get on the helicopter, and just as the helicopter is about to take off, the bad guy, who's based on Bill Gates, grabs the thing of the helicopter because he's trying to climb up onto the helicopter, and Thomas gets the sword and chops his hands off, and he just, falls from a great height and dies. So that's how it ends. But yeah, so something's coming. I think this investigation's been opened up because I think that the people have realised that this whole time they've been lied to. And between him and Rocio and all of that, Elon Musk and that, has cost the American military and the British government and that millions and millions and millions and millions of pounds, because this has been going on for nearly 4 years and secretly behind closed doors since around about 2017. Millions and millions and millions they would have spent surveilling me, investigating me, trying to stop me, thinking I was a threat. I think they finally realised she was the one that was protecting us. She warned us this was coming. She warned us this was happening, and they blindsided us. We believed the wrong people. We believed the snake because of the position the snake held. And remember, at the start of the dream, Chris didn't want to be seen with that poor man because of his reputation, because of how his image looked. He didn't want to be seen as being gay or bi. He didn't want to be seen as that. He wanted to be seen as the upright family man. When he's... Because you have to remember, he called the cops on Thomas that night too. He was fully prepared to get Thomas arrested to protect his own reputation. But I took it all. I took the impact to protect my son, because that's what a parent does. But it ends with me being proud of myself and liking what I see in the mirror, which for someone who was agoraphobic, morbidly obese, and had body dysmorphia and exceptionally low self-esteem issues, that's quite a victory for me. To be able to see my full face and body in the mirror and like what I see is a huge victory. It means that all the work I've done on myself is about to pay off. So I just gave myself a Mother's Day present. So yeah, let's watch this space, because I think Chris is about to get done. I think I've finally been believed. Somebody out there has either reopened my case or has decided to look deeper into my case and realise, holy crap, she was telling the truth the whole time. and millions of pounds and dollars have been spent, and it's got something to do with the army. And it was the army that the army base in Germany that number came from. So they may have even been hacked themselves, because Rocio works in the telecommunications department, and she has to have contact with the Secret Service, because obviously she has to alert them if there's any unusual phone calls or... So I think they've been caught out, because what you need to understand as well is that Rocio and Chris are now a lot of the reason why these military boys are being sent to Iran and coming back in body bags. Because if they hadn't have gotten in the way, I would have been believed in the first place, and none of this would have happened. The revelations about Donald Trump and all of that would have come to light a lot faster. So Rocio and Chris and everybody who helped them has not only got themselves caught up in the Epstein thing, because this is now an Epstein war, they're partially responsible for why so many innocent people are being killed, and why troops are now creating a rebellion, and why we've had many come back in body bags, and a lot of them are being kept secret at German air-base hospitals because of Rocio. So she's got blood on her hands, and because remember in my dream, the blood was on my hands, the blood coming from me was on my hands. She's got blood on her hands. And Chris, they've got blood on their hands. Martin, Beth, all of them, they've got blood on their hands. Because I was trying to protect America. I've got videos where I'm saying I'm doing this for America. I'm doing this for the children, I'm doing this for my boys, and I'm doing this for America. Because I was trying to protect them. It wouldn't have taken me long to realise that Donald Trump was the bad guy. But because I had to deal with all of this and there was so much interference, they wanted to usurp my position and look like they were the ones protecting America so that they could get all the glory. They wanted to be seen as, look what we stopped, not realising God had other plans. They didn't know that I was going to bring so much up from the bottom of the ocean in regards to my investigations that was going to put them in deep doo-doo. And now there's literally a mutiny going on. You can look it up on X and that, it's all there. All the US military and that are now causing a mutiny. They're absolutely 100% refusing to go to Iran. The Israeli people, Tel Aviv is on fire. They're setting Tel Aviv on fire. They're sending mobs to the government buildings, demanding answers, demanding a ceasefire. And remember in my dream where Netanyahu got shot in the head, remember it was Israelis and Palestinians that were planting the olive trees. Everybody knows he's dead. Trump has completely lost his mind, which is having the shed broken into. Completely lost his mind. Lost all, he's telling everyone the war's over, and it's not. He's telling everyone that they've destroyed the Iranian military, and they haven't. Because he's trying to, that's part of the gaslighting. The mind control isn't working anymore. People used to believe him before, but they don't believe him now, and everyone knows that Netanyahu's dead. And because of it, the Israelis have now done us out saying, sort this out, like, you need a ceasefire, we need peace, which is exactly what I said was going to happen. So, yeah, I think I'm about to get news of justice. And I think America's finally realised she was the one protecting us this whole time. So you never know. You never know. Maybe once Trump's gone and the ceasefire, because it is going to come to an end, this war doesn't last for too much longer. I said a couple of weeks, a few weeks. It is coming to an end because Trump knows he's screwed. He's trying to put the responsibility on everyone else now, and France is going to be held accountable. The UK is going to be held accountable. War crimes and all of that. So he's trying to back away and put the responsibility on everyone else because he knows he's screwed. So once this is all over, maybe America will welcome me with open arms. Maybe America is the land of ace. That's what I had always assumed it was the land of ace in the first place. And then I thought, oh, maybe it's Canada. And then if you look what Vladimir Putin looks like in his language, his name's full of ace. So I've been trying to find the land of ace. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I don't end up in Switzerland. I don't know. I honestly don't know at this point. I'll go to the country that can guarantee safety for the children. But I'm hoping it's Switzerland because I think if I was given the choice of anywhere else in the world to live, I don't think I'd want to live anywhere other than Switzerland. The only thing that puts me off is where the World Economic Forum is, but I know that that's coming to an end anyway. It's all getting torn down. So yeah, I don't think I want to live anywhere else. And if it ends up just being me and my boys, then if it ends up even just being me, I don't care. But we'll just see. America might make too good of an offer. Their offer might be too good for me to refuse. So we'll just see. Anyway, I had to document that because I think Poop's about to hit the fan for my ex, and I think he's about to get locked up. And I think maybe he knows it. So if he gets a call or a knock on the door, and it's the cop standing there saying, hey, can you come down to the station and answer some questions for us, please? He knows he's not coming back. Oh, please, Lord, please. I was so happy. Anyway, and if that happens, I wouldn't hold the West Yorkshire Police responsible. All I would be doing is asking that the 3 cops who lied on those forms to be removed from service. Because when you've got cops that are lying and condemning innocent people for crimes that they didn't commit, these are not people who took the oath to protect and serve the public seriously. These are people you can't trust in law enforcement. Crooked cops. You can't have a police department with crooked cops. And those 3 women, PC Violet, PC Wright, PC Brown, all crooked. They lied on official police documents to protect each other. And whoever that one was at the police station with PC Wright. And that lawyer needs to be removed as well because he joined in on the lies. And he's supposed to be there representing the people who are given lawyers to represent them in court. Why was I being given a lawyer when I was only there to answer questions? And that's why the New Zealand Embassy said, get out now. You don't have to answer to them. You're not under arrest. Get out now. It's like they were trying to lure me in to set me up because you don't get given lawyers when you're only there to answer questions. But they assigned me a lawyer. Like they were getting ready to take me to court for something that ended up having nothing to do with me. Even the person who was responsible for the reason why I was being questioned said, Debbie's got nothing to do with this. But because Chris cried and said, oh, she's involved. And I was just like minding my own business, had nothing to do with nothing. But they were still questioning me with a lawyer. That's corruption. So I wouldn't hold the West Yorkshire Police responsible as long as they got rid of the corrupt police officers and that lawyer. Because these aren't people who are upholding the law for the greatest good. And then I wouldn't hold them responsible. Otherwise, they'll pay as well. Anyway, and that's what the blood was. And it was a lot of blood. So, a new cycle for me as a woman is about to begin. And it's a big cycle. I'm going to go and have my Mother's Day breakfast. That's what that noise was. Treated myself to a Mother's Day breakfast. I'll speak to you later. I'd be so scared if I was Chris right now. Mwah! Mwah! This is my evil laugh. Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Mwah.